The readings for Wednesday, October 12th. The epistle reading for today comes from St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians, chapter 5, verses 25 through 33. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word, that he might present her to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as the Lord does the church. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and his bones. For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother, and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. Nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. And some footnotes from the Orthodox Study Bible. For verses 22 through 23, so a little bit earlier than our starting point for our passage today. The model is Christ and the church, verse 32, which is then applied to marriage. Yet Christian marriage helps us to understand the mystery of the church. 1. For wives, concerning headship, verses 22 through 24, in both the church and marriage, there is one who acts as a head, who leads. As man, Christ is first among equals, not superior to us in nature, yet he alone is the head of the church, verse 23. Likewise, wives are called to submit to their husbands as equals. 2. For husbands, concerning sacrificial love, verses 25 through 31, Paul writes 3 sentences to wives, but writes at greater length to impress on husbands that they should love their wives. Just as the wife's submission is to accept the headship of the husband's submission to his wife is to sacrifice himself for her. In ancient Israel, the bride would bathe and dress and be escorted to the bridegroom by his friends. In the church, baptism is that bathing and dressing in which we put on Christ, verse 26, and the groom himself. Christ escorts us, in verse 27. In the church, the baptized are one humanity, one flesh with Christ. In marriage, husband and wife are one flesh with each other. And the gospel reading for today comes from the book of Luke, chapter 8, verses 22 through 25. Now it happened on a certain day that he got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, "Let us cross over to the other side of the lake." And they launched out. But as they sailed, he fell asleep, and a windstorm came down on the lake, and they were filling with water, and were in jeopardy. And they came to him and awoke him, saying, "Master, Master, we are perishing." Then he arose and rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and there was a calm. But he said to them, "Where is your faith?" And they were afraid and marveled, saying to one another, "Who can this be? For he commands even the winds and water, and they obey him." For verses 22 through 25, this exact passage, Christ deliberately permits the windstorm to arise while he is sleeping in order to perfect the disciples' faith and rebuke their weaknesses, so they would eventually be unshaken by life's temptations. Here, their faith is still mixed up with unbelief. They showed faith when they came to him, but unbelief when they said, "We are perishing." That's going to do it for today, guys. Hope you all have a wonderful Wednesday, halfway point through the week. And please, if you could, say a prayer for me, a sinner. Thank you.